The phone call came in the middle of the night. Anna, half asleep, fumbled to answer, her heart pounding before she even heard the words. "You need to come now," the nurse said gently. "Your mother's condition has worsened." Without hesitation, Anna threw on the nearest clothes, grabbed her keys, and drove through the dark, empty streets, her mind racing with worry and memories. As she entered the hospital, the familiar sterile scent and the soft hum of machines filled her senses. Anna's steps quickened down the dimly lit corridor, her chest tightening with each passing second. When she opened the door to her mother's room, she was struck by how frail and small her mother looked, lying quietly against the white pillows, her breathing shallow but steady. "Mom," Anna whispered, moving to her side and taking her hand. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, and for a brief moment, they locked gazes. An unspoken connection filled with love, pain, and everything that had been left unsaid. Anna fought back tears, brushing a strand of gray hair from her mother's forehead. "I'm here," she said softly. The room was heavy with silence except for the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. Anna sat, holding her mother's hand tightly, as memories of childhood flooded her mind. Birthday cakes, bedtime stories, and even the arguments that had driven wedges between them in later years. Now none of that seemed to matter. All that mattered was being there in these final precious hours. Her mother's lips trembled as she struggled to speak. Anna leaned in closer, straining to hear. "There's something you need to know," her mother whispered hoarsely, her eyes glistening with urgency. Anna's heart ached as she squeezed her mother's hand, but before her mother could finish, exhaustion overtook her, and she drifted into a restless sleep. Anna sat in the quiet, holding on, realizing this visit might be their last. And though she didn't yet understand the weight of her mother's words, she knew deep inside that her life was about to change forever. The hours passed slowly as Anna kept her silent vigil by her mother's side. The morning light began to filter through the blinds, casting a soft glow across the room. Anna, exhausted but unwilling to leave, gently held her mother's fragile hand, watching every rise and fall of her chest with anxious eyes. Suddenly her mother stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she seemed more alert than before, though her voice was still weak and strained. Anna leaned in quickly, her heart beating faster. "Mom, I'm here," she whispered. "What were you trying to tell me?" Her mother's eyes filled with tears, and she took a shaky breath. "Anna, there's something I kept from you," she said haltingly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Anna's throat tightened, unsure whether she was ready to hear what was coming. "It's about your father and who you really are." Anna froze, her mind spinning. "What do you mean, Mom?" she asked gently, trying to keep her voice calm despite the sudden rush of confusion and fear. Tears slid down her mother's cheeks. "I never told you the full truth. I thought I was protecting you, but you deserve to know before it's too late." She paused, gasping for breath, and Anna hurried to press a cool cloth to her forehead in the drawer. "At home, letters, they'll explain everything." Anna's heart was pounding now. 1,000 questions raced through her mind, but she knew her mother didn't have the strength to say more. "I promise I'll find them," Anna whispered, her own tears falling freely now. "I promise." Her mother gave a small, tired nod, her lips forming a faint smile of relief. Then, as if the burden had finally lifted, her eyes drifted shut once more. Anna stayed close, whispering words of love and comfort, even as her own world felt like it was slowly falling apart. In that quiet room, Anna realized her life had just shifted in a way she could never have imagined. The truth was out there, waiting, and whatever it was, it had the power to change everything. The funeral came quickly, a blur of black clothing, whispered condolences, and silent tears. Anna stood by her mother's casket, her heart aching with a deep, hollow pain that words could never fully express. Friends and relatives offered hugs and kind words, but nothing seemed to ease the crushing grief that pressed down on her chest. As the final prayer was spoken and the crowd began to drift away, Anna lingered alone, staring at the polished wood of the casket. So much had been left unsaid, so much unfinished. She whispered softly, "I love you, Mom, and I will find the truth. I promise." In the days that followed, Anna moved like a shadow through her own life, performing the motions of daily routine but feeling utterly disconnected. Everywhere she turned in her childhood home, memories of her perfume still clung to the pillows, framed photos smiled from the walls, and her familiar handwriting appeared on notes and recipes tucked away in drawers. But Anna couldn't stop thinking about her mother's final words. The letters. Each night she sat in the quiet house, wrestling with her grief and the growing urgency to uncover the truth her mother had left behind. One rainy evening, Anna finally gathered the strength to begin. She walked into her mother's bedroom, the place that now felt like both a sanctuary and a vault of secrets. Her hands trembled as she lifted it out and carefully removed the lid. Inside, a bundle of letters lay tied together with a faded blue ribbon. The sight of her mother's handwriting brought fresh tears to Anna's eyes. Taking a deep breath, she untied the ribbon and unfolded the first letter, her heart pounding as she began to read. The words blurred as tears welled up, but Anna forced herself to keep going. With every sentence, a new piece of the puzzle came into focus. Hidden stories of love, regret, and decisions that had shaped her life in ways she'd never known. The weight of grief grew heavier, but so did her determination. As she set the first letter down, Anna knew her journey had only just begun. The truth her mother had hinted at was bigger than she had imagined, and she was ready. In the quiet days that followed, Anna immersed herself in the letters, reading each one slowly, carefully, as though her mother's voice echoed through every word. The more she read, the clearer the picture became. Her mother had lived with a secret pain, a choice made long ago that shaped both of their lives in hidden ways. One letter stood out. It mentioned a name, David. The words trembled with emotion as her mother confessed to giving up a baby boy for adoption before Anna was born. Anna's hands shook as she read those lines again and again. She had a brother who had been out there, living his own life, completely unaware of her existence. Driven by a surge of purpose, Anna began her search. She scoured every piece of information she could find, old address books, family photo albums, and even her mother's journals. She reached out to relatives and close friends, cautiously asking questions, piecing together fragments of the past. Some doors closed quickly, with little to offer. But a few surprising leads emerged. Her Aunt Mary, hesitant at first, finally opened up. "We all knew your mother carried that secret," she admitted softly, "but we thought it was her story to tell. David was born at a small clinic outside of town. That's all I can really remember." Armed with that detail, Anna dug deeper, visiting the clinic's records office and sifting through dusty archives. The search was frustrating and emotional, filled with dead ends and moments of doubt. But every time she felt like giving up, she remembered her mother's eyes, full of sorrow and love, urging her forward. Late one afternoon, after hours of searching, Anna uncovered a fragile, yellowed document, a birth record. Her heart raced as she read the name David James Carter, born just 2 years before her own birth. There was an adoption agency listed, barely legible but enough to be a breakthrough. Anna clutched the paper to her chest, tears falling freely. She didn't know where this road would lead, or if she would ever find David, but she had taken the first real step. For the first time since her mother's death, hope flickered within her, a fragile but steady light guiding her deeper into the past and toward whatever lay ahead. With the birth record in hand, Anna felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. The adoption agency listed on the document had long since closed, but Anna wasn't ready to give up. She began contacting local historical societies and online adoption forums, hoping that someone, somewhere, might point her in the right direction. Days turned into weeks, and Anna's determination never wavered. One afternoon, she received an unexpected email from a woman named Karen, a volunteer who specialized in reconnecting birth families. Karen had seen Anna's post in a support group and offered to help. They met at a small cafe, and Anna shared everything she had discovered. Karen listened carefully, her eyes kind and understanding. "You've already done a lot," she said. "Sometimes the records are sealed tight, but other times we get lucky." With Karen's expertise, they combed through databases and old adoption records, following every lead, no matter how small. Slowly, bits of information began to surface. A mention of a boy named David who had been adopted by a couple in a neighboring town, a school record, even a faint trail on social media. Another ally came in the form of Tom, a retired private investigator who volunteered his time for cases like Anna's. He brought a sharp eye and years of experience, helping Anna piece together the scattered clues. "It's like finding a needle in a haystack," Tom admitted one day. "But you've got something powerful on your side. The truth always finds a way." The search took Anna to places she never imagined. Libraries, court archives, and conversations with strangers who, bit by bit, added pieces to the puzzle. Each time she hit a dead end, Karen and Tom encouraged her to keep going, reminding her that these things took time and patience. One rainy evening, Anna sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by notes and documents. Just as she was about to call it a night, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Karen. "I think we've found him," Anna said. Bringing the message again, she could hardly believe David James Carter, alive, well, and living just 2 hours away. The information was still new and fragile, but it was the breakthrough Anna had dreamed of. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, "Thank you, Mom." The road ahead was still uncertain, but Anna knew she was no longer walking it alone. With the help of her unexpected allies, she was closer than ever to discovering the brother she never knew and to fulfilling her mother's final wish. Anna spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotion. The knowledge that David was real, living nearby, and perhaps within reach stirred both excitement and deep anxiety. What would he be like? Would he want to meet her? Did he even know he was adopted? The questions circled in her mind, keeping her awake at night. With careful thought, Anna decided to write a letter first. Something personal, but gentle. She introduced herself, explained her journey, and shared the truth her mother had carried for so long. She ended with no demands, only an open invitation. "If you're willing, I would love to meet you." She mailed the letter and waited, each passing day stretching longer than the last. In the meantime, Anna reflected deeply on everything that had happened. The grief she once felt had started to shift. Her mother's secret, though painful, now seemed. Anna found herself seeing her mother not just as mom, but as a woman who had faced heartbreak and carried silent burdens. One evening, as Anna sat by the window watching the sunset, her phone buzzed with a new message. Her heart skipped a beat as she read the sender's name, David Carter. "Hello, Anna," the message began. "I received your letter. I'm still processing everything, but I want you to know I'm open to talking. Maybe we can meet soon. Terry." After all the searching, waiting, and wondering, a door had finally opened. She replied with gratitude and hope, setting a time for a first meeting. As she put down her phone, Anna felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. The truth had brought pain, yes, but it had also brought healing. Her perspective had widened, her heart softened. No matter what happened next, she knew she had honored her mother's final wish and stepped into a new chapter of her own life. One defined not by loss, but by discovery, courage, and love. The day of their meeting arrived, filled with nervous anticipation. Anna chose a quiet coffee shop halfway between their towns, a neutral and welcoming place for what was sure to be an emotional encounter. She arrived early, her hands trembling as she wrapped them around a warm cup, eyes fixed on the door. When David walked in, Anna recognized him instantly. There was something familiar in his eyes, a reflection of her mother's gaze, a mixture. David looked just as nervous, scanning the room until their eyes met. He approached slowly and they exchanged a quiet, uncertain smile. "Hi, Anna," he said, his voice steady but soft. "Hi, David," she replied, standing to greet him. They shook hands at first, but after a brief, awkward pause, they hugged. An embrace that felt both strange and deeply comforting. They sat and began to talk, starting with the basics, childhood memories, careers, families of their own. David shared that he had always known he was adopted, but his adoptive parents had little information about his biological roots. I wondered sometimes, he admitted, but I never imagined this. Anna shared her mother's story, the difficult decision, the lifelong regret, and her final wish for Anna to find him. David listened intently, his eyes misting with emotion. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "Thank you for finding me. I can't imagine how hard this must have been for both of you." As the conversation deepened, they discovered shared quirks and surprising similarities. Certain expressions, a love for music, even a similar laugh. The connection felt natural, as if some hidden thread had always linked them despite the years apart. Over the next few weeks, Anna and David continued to build their relationship, meeting for lunches, exchanging stories, and gradually weaving each other into their lives. There were tears and moments of sadness for the lost years, but there was also joy, a sense of healing and completeness neither of them had expected. Anna also began to reach out to other family members, inspired by the courage it had taken to find David. Old wounds within the extended family began to heal as well. Conversations reopened, and forgiveness started to bloom in places where hurt had lingered for too long. Through it all, Anna felt her mother's presence, a quiet reassurance that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The journey had been painful and uncertain, but it had led to something beautiful, the mending of broken bonds and the discovery of new beginnings. Months passed, and what began as cautious meetings between Anna and David blossomed into a genuine sibling bond. They shared holidays, met each other's friends and families, and even took a weekend trip together to visit places from their mother's past. Anna often found herself reflecting on how much her life had changed since that sleepless night by her mother's bedside. What had once been a simple, familiar world had been cracked open, revealing deep layers of truth, pain, and ultimately, grace. The loss of her mother had felt unbearable at first, but in her absence, Anna had discovered unexpected gifts: a brother, a fuller understanding of her family story, and a deeper resilience within herself. She also realized that her mother's final words were more than a confession. They were a call to live with honesty, courage, and love. Inspired by that, Anna began volunteering at a local support group for adoptees and birth families, offering hope to others walking a similar path. Each story she heard reminded her of her own journey, and each time she shared her experience, she felt her mother's legacy living on. David, too, embraced his new chapter, grateful for the answers he had sought for so long. Together, they created a new family tradition, lighting a candle every year on their mother's birthday, a symbol of remembrance, forgiveness, and the light that truth can bring, even after years of silence. Anna knew there would always be questions without answers, and wounds that time couldn't fully heal. But she also knew that her mother's last words had set her on a path of discovery and healing that transformed her life. In honoring that, she found peace. Standing one evening beneath a sky full of stars, Anna whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for everything." And with a heart full of love and quiet strength, she stepped confidently into the future, carrying her mother's legacy forward, one day at a time. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear the next part or discover more powerful family stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep sharing meaningful stories that touch the heart and inspire. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We post new videos regularly, whether it's stories of hidden family secrets, reunions, or life-changing moments. There's always something new to explore. Stay connected and be part of our growing community. Thank you for watching and supporting our journey.